Hey everybody, welcome back to Living Traditions Homestead. Well, it is another beautiful day here in the Missouri Ozarks. I think it's about 70 degrees out, the sun is shining, and you really just can't ask for a nicer spring day than that. So we thought we'd take a little bit of time out of our day today, just take a break from our work and sit down with you guys to talk about something that we feel like we were struggling with pretty big time for the last, I'd say, 6 to 9 months, but feel like we've now kind of come out on the other side of, and maybe we can help some of you who may be struggling as well.
And that is homestead burnout. Now, like Kevin said, we kind of struggled with that for about 6 to 9 months. It's been a few months since we've kind of been out on the other side of that. We love what we do here. We love this homesteading lifestyle. So when we identified that we were kind of in burnout, we spent a lot of time talking about how we can really resolve this. Right. And so today we wanted to share with you kind of where we were at, how we kind of got into that burnout situation, and what we've identified to help us kind of stay away from burnout in the future.
So let's take a step back, probably about 9 months or so. It was last summer. We were still managing having this current homestead that we're on now and our previous homestead as well. Life just seemed completely overwhelming. Trying to keep up with the work on 2 separate places was really more than we could handle at the time. Now we knew that that would be coming to an end by selling our first homestead and moving completely here to our new homestead, but at the time it just seemed like that was taking forever. We knew that having the 2 places wasn't the only thing causing us to feel like we were being burned out, though, because by that point, we really did have most everything already here at the new property. So we just needed to kind of take a step back, think about what our priorities were, why we got into this homesteading lifestyle in the first place, and see how we could realign our current life with why we started this in the first place. And that's kind of the process we want to take you through today, is how we identified what our priorities were, how we kind of realigned where we're at now, and how we feel like that has really helped us come out of the other side.
So in order to get back on track, we felt like we needed to kind of take a step backwards and kind of figure out why we originally wanted to homestead in the first place. We needed to identify our priorities, why we're homesteading, and kind of separate our homesteading priorities from our how to generate income priorities or our business priorities.
Now for us, that's a little more complicated because our income, our business revolves around homesteading. So right. We generate income from our homestead. For some of you, that may be different. Maybe you work a full-time job off the homestead, so the making money part of it is more cut and dry for you because your way to make income is just go to your job every day, and then you homestead in the evenings and on the weekends and whenever you have time. And that's absolutely fine. I think burnout on homesteading can occur no matter how you make your income.
Right.
It may happen maybe a little more when your income is generated from your homestead because you basically never get a break from the homesteading part of it. But hey, burnout can happen in a lot of different ways. That's what this video is about, is to how kind of overall we came through all of that. So for us, sitting down and realizing what our main priorities were is really our biggest priority. When we left corporate America, when we decided we were going to move out to the country and become full-time homesteaders, there was one thing that was overwhelmingly the main goal, and that was we wanted to raise good, wholesome, nutritious food for our family. That was like number one. That was what we wanted to do. That
was the purpose of homesteading
right.
for us. But we also knew when we first started getting into this and we left corporate America that we needed a way to support ourselves. We needed a business that would generate income. We are not just independently wealthy. We have not been given loads of money from our families.
Right. We're not old enough to retire and have Social Security.
Right. So we needed to be self-made basically. So we needed priorities and a focus for income, for revenue, and a business.
And that has really evolved over time. So we're not saying that this is something that you necessarily need to know on day one, although if you have a clear idea on day one, that absolutely helps. For us, though, making money here on the homestead has, over time, like I said, it's evolved, but it's really turned into three main things. It has turned into our plant start business, which, as you know, we sell at our local farmers market, and we sell plant starts in other ways as well to, you know, people in the community. So we sell plant starts, and we start those in the winter. We start them, we grow them in our greenhouse, and then we sell them in the spring. That is kind of a seasonal business for us. It has a clear ending point. Once everybody's garden is planted, our job is about over for the year as far as that goes.
The second area of revenue generation that we make money is selling calves. We have a small herd of beef cattle here, and every year they have calves. We raise them up for about 6 months, and then we wean them. We hold back what we need for our family's beef supply, and then we sell the remainder at a local livestock auction, and that brings us some income and some revenue, and we use that to fund our family throughout the year.
And then the last part is, you know, kind of a no-brainer for you guys. It's YouTube. YouTube has turned into a business for us. We love teaching on YouTube. We feel like we've been blessed with the ability and the skills to be fairly good teachers on YouTube. And we feel like as we learn things and as we get more experiences, sharing those with you guys so that maybe we can shorten your learning curve a little bit has been beneficial, certainly to us, and we hope that it's been beneficial to you guys as well along the way. So that those are really the three main parts of how we generate income here on our homestead. The plant starts, selling calves, and then teaching you guys here on YouTube.
But like Kevin said earlier, that has evolved over the last 7 years.
Right.
And as we continue to talk, we'll kind of tell you some of the other directions that we went that we decided weren't necessarily good for us.
So once we came up with that list of priorities, both what I would call personal homesteading priorities and kind of business homesteading priorities, then we had to sit down and really look at everything that we were doing throughout the year to determine if it fell into one of those two categories and whether or not it was helping those priorities. So we did this by kind of breaking the year up into seasons, because really as homesteaders, or really anybody kind of living this kind of lifestyle, you kind of live more seasonally. So we really thought, like, what are we doing seasonally, and do those things help or hinder our overall priorities? So we'll start with winter. For winter for us, which we're just now coming out of, winter for us is a little bit of a downtime, although it's not by no means is it a time when we just sit in the house and wait for spring to get here. We're super busy in the winter as well. But for us, after talking about everything that we have done over the past few years, we've decided that there are some things that are the most important in the winter. And that really comes down to having an adequate amount of time to plan for the coming year, because doing things on a larger scale, like raising your animals and like when to breed certain things, like when to put our bull in with our cat or with our cows, and when to, you know, make sure our milk cows are coming into milk, and all of that type of stuff, that all takes planning. What are we going to have in the garden? What are we going to have in the greenhouse?
Right.
When do all of those seeds need to be started? When do seeds need to be started for the farmer's market? That takes a lot of planning, and each year we learn a little bit more about that. So for winter, we decided our most important things are planning for the coming year, growing things in our greenhouse, which aligns with our goal of raising food for our family, and then starting all of the seeds and all of the plants that we need for the upcoming spring and farmers market season.
Right. And then we started looking at spring. What did we want to identify as the activities that we will do aligning with both of those priorities? And we decided that we would be concentrating on selling at the farmers market, which we sell plant starts beginning April 1st until we're out of plants, which generally is the middle of May. Planting our greenhouse, our garden, everything to do with planting we will do in the spring. Our calving season is in the spring, which is important to us.
In fact, we just had our first calf of the year this week, so we're super happy about that, a little heifer calf.
Right, and hatching those birds that we need to either supplement our current egg-laying flock or hatching those birds that we need to raise throughout the summer for our own meat supply for our family.
Right. So, those are the things that we've determined are the most important during the spring. Now, during summer, we really shift our focus. Our focus in the summer really becomes food.
Right.
It becomes raising our garden, making sure that our garden is doing well and is being successful. That's everything from making sure it's watered correctly, making sure we're fertilizing when we need to, making sure pests are under control, just everything that goes into raising a successful garden.
And greenhouse.
Yeah. And then from there, it really goes into starting to preserve the things that are starting to come, ready to be preserved. By late June, early July, we'll be preserving all of our tomatoes and things like that. Sarah will be making salsa and canning green beans. And so all of that happens kind of midsummer.
Right. So along with growing our food in the garden and in the greenhouse, we're also in the summer really concentrating on growing those meat animals that we have identified are going to feed our family for an entire year.
Right.
So we're raising chickens, we're growing up our steer, we're growing up pigs. All in the summer, we're concentrating on growing vegetables, produce, and the animals that we'll be harvesting for our meat production.
Right. And then the other thing that happens in the summer, because the weather is nice, is that we can catch up on some of those bigger projects that maybe the winter weather wouldn't allow us to get done, or we just decided didn't need to be done over the winter while we were focusing on other things. So like this summer, we'll be building some more hoop coops. We've got some other animal pens. I'm working on some new things for my quail. So those things will kind of take place over this summer. And we're excited to kind of move into that season here coming up soon.
And then the last season is fall. And fall is really dedicated to harvesting the animals that we have been raising all summer long for our family.
Right.
Selling those calves or that livestock that's ready. They're big enough to go to the livestock auction, as well as hunting.
Right. I think hunting is something that sometimes as homesteaders or just people in general, I think we feel like it's a recreation type activity. And of course, in some regards it is. I enjoy hunting. It's a fun thing for me to do. But it's also something that in the past has kind of taken a back seat as far as priorities go. And I don't feel like that's right. I don't feel like that is something that should be pushed on the back burner. And, we've kind of struggled with this for the last few years. But, hunting can supply a lot of food for your family in a very short amount of time. And really, it's the most cost-effective way to get meat for your family.
Right.
There's no raising of the animals involved. There's no time spent caring for the animals. At least here on our homestead, there's no cost of processing the animals because, when we deer hunt or rabbit hunt or anything else, we do all the processing ourselves. So it's really an inexpensive way to fill up your freezers with some good, wholesome meat for your family.
And the last thing for fall priority for us is just to prepare for the winter, prepare the homestead for the winter, make sure we have enough firewood for our wood stove, and just make sure that everything...
Right. Animal pens are secured and ready for winter. And
right.
All of those little things that just go into getting ready for the cold weather.
Right. So those are the priorities that we have identified, through this time that we were kind of feeling burnout, just to kind of organize our lives a little bit more and say, this absolutely goes along with the priorities and goals for our homestead and for our business. And identify those things that really just are not contributing to those priorities.
Right. And to know that when we're doing the things that we just discussed, we shouldn't feel guilty about that. We shouldn't feel like, gee, I should be doing this or I should be doing that, because these are the things that are the most important.
Right.
And other things can go on the back burner because the important things need to come first. So during this process of coming up with kind of these overall priorities and the things that we're doing that break down by the season, we did identify some things that we really did feel like were distracting us from our overall goals. I
think the main kind of trap that Kevin and I fall into.
And I think a lot of homesteaders.
Yeah. Kevin and I are very business minded. And we see opportunities. We see business opportunities everywhere. Okay. And even on the homestead, we find things and find ways to add to our business. And having too many business ideas and focusing on too many ways to generate an income really negatively spreads out your energy, your physical energy, your like mental energy on too many things, and you kind of get lost in what the priorities are.
And I think it's a major contributing factor to being burned out because you never feel like you slow down.
Right.
You know, it's kind of that jack of all trades, master of none. I'm a firm believer that there's at least some things that you should be a master of. You should get good at a few things, and those are the things that you probably should be doing as a business on your homestead.
So that is one contributor to our burnout, is that we just start accumulating more and more things that we can start making or raising and selling.
Right.
And it really takes away from the happiness that you can feel in your business and on your homestead.
And it takes away from your priorities.
Right.
So, like, let's take, for example, you know, for the last few years, we've been breeding pigs here on the homestead. You guys know that. We've done videos about it. We showed you. And I certainly don't want to say that we didn't enjoy having the piglets here on the homestead or the breeding pigs. We enjoyed that process. But after a while, we just realized that we either needed to really focus on that, or which really was more of a business, because let's be honest, out of all the piglets we raised every year, 2 of them were for us. So we might have, let's see, last year we had 3 litters of 9, so that's 27 piglets born on the homestead. So 25 of those were to sell, and 2 of them were for us.
Right.
So we had to decide all of the work that went into those pigs for the entire year, not just during the season where we had piglets, was that worth continuing to do all of that so that we could basically get 2 pigs and a little bit of income.
Well, and the other thing is, you know, most of our breeding and most of our farrowing happened in the spring, which if we go back to what our priorities are now for the spring, a lot of that has to deal with, you know, the farmer's market, planting, and those kinds of things, and adding the busyness of farrowing and raising those piglets and making sure that those piglets have a new home to go to, the registration process, that whole coordination, that was taking away from...
That was taking a lot of time.
Yeah, it was taking away from the other things that we needed to accomplish in the springtime.
Right. So for us, once we identified that that was not helping our overall priorities, we decided to get rid of our pigs. We did videos about this recently, that we've sold all of our breeding pigs. Now, part of the deal selling our last sow was that when she had her babies, which she just recently had after she went to her new owner's home, she had piglets. We will be getting 2 of those piglets back in probably May, sometime in May, and we'll raise those up this year for meat. And going forward, that's what we're going to go back to. Just what we used to do when we started homesteading, is getting pigs in the spring, raising them all summer, because that aligns with our goal of raising meat animals over the summer. We'll process them in the fall during our processing season. And by winter, we'll be able to focus on the winter priorities with no longer having to focus on things that kind of overlap the seasons.
Right. So that's something that we identified as a business opportunity that became too much for us.
Right.
And that's one thing that we let go when we refocused our priorities on our business.
Right. The other thing that we've decided is that, well, and I just kind of touched on a minute ago, is to stop doing so many things that kind of go year round or cross over seasons, and that kind of happened with the farmers market as well.
Right.
In several years ago, and now this has been several years already since we've done this, but we used to try to sell plant starts at the farmers market in the spring. Then we would try to sell produce at the farmers market in the summer. And then by fall, when we maybe didn't have as much produce, we'd do some baking, and we just felt this like obligation to keep going. And the truth is, all of those things that we did, like when we sold produce at the farmers market, we would spend almost all day Thursday harvesting. First of all, we had to grow way more than we normally would.
Right.
We would spend almost all day Thursday harvesting. We would spend almost all day Friday washing and packaging and getting signs ready and all of that. And then we'd spend most of Saturday at the market selling the produce. And we just didn't see the payoff for all of that time when it was taking us away from what we really should have been doing during that time, which is harvesting for our family, preserving food for our family, and putting things up for the winter so that we could focus on our winter type activity.
And it didn't end up paying off financially also, going through all of that work and selling that produce at the farmers market.
Right.
The cost didn't outweigh, or the benefit didn't outweigh the cost. So it didn't make sense for us to continue for that reason as well.
Right. Now that's for us.
Right.
We're not trying to deter anybody
Absolutely.
from selling produce at a farmer's market. We love going to the farmer's market and buying produce even today from other local vendors. That's just for us. We had to sit down and look at our goals.
Right.
Now, you may have a completely different market where you are, where things may be a lot different where you are.
Right.
So we're certainly not trying to deter people from doing that. Again, it all comes down to the specific priorities of your homestead,
right.
and it comes down to, what you've determined is your kind of business plan versus your personal plan.
So since we have reprioritized our homestead and our business, there are some other things that we have decided to start doing that will kind of help keep burnout in check.
Right. Some things that we've decided to start doing and some things we've decided to stop doing.
The first thing that we've started doing is we have started having an end time for our work day.
This is tough.
It is. It's really easy for us to start working the moment we're done drinking our coffee in the morning, and pretty much, except for meal times, pretty much work until maybe an hour before bedtime.
Right. And when we say we've instituted a quitting time for the day, now this certainly doesn't mean that, at 5 p.m. that we go in the house, we sit on the couch, and we just watch TV until 10 o'clock when we go to bed. No, what it means is that we've decided that in order to be able to keep up with our kind of personal homestead things that we want to do, we've decided to quit. We've decided to institute a quitting time for kind of what we would consider our income producing work day. So things that we need to do in the greenhouse with plant starts and all of that, we will now have a distinct kind of quitting time for that, so that we can move on to things that either we just want to do or that we need to do for our family. It's really no different than if you have like a 9-to-5 job, and when you get home in the evening, you no longer need to work at that job. You just get to come home and do what you want to do in the evenings, or need to do. It's not always want to do, but it's need to do, like mow the lawn or whatever. But if your boss said you need to be at your 9-to-5 job 24 hours a day, obviously you'd have no time to get done what you need to do at home. And that's kind of the same thing that we're doing now.
Right. So it will also give us an opportunity to do some of the more fun things that we've wanted to do.
Right. Like Sarah loves planting flowers, but in the past we've kind of felt guilty about stopping. And so she hasn't had a lot of time to do that. And so this year, she's already got a lot of flowers planted.
Yeah. Another thing that we have decided to do is to allow ourselves to give up some control of a few things on the homestead or in our business that will free up some time and maybe allow us to even grow a little bit more. For instance, we've shared with you all that we have a new website, and in the past our websites were created by Kevin and updated and kept current by Kevin, and this go round we've decided to hire somebody to take care of that for us.
And that has freed up quite a bit of time. It's also actually made a much better website, because I'm by no means someone who makes websites. I could do an okay job, but I couldn't do a great job. So the lady that we've hired now, her name is Jacqueline. She just does a great job, and she will be able to add features to the website, or already has, so that we can do things like sell our hatching eggs, sell our chicks, and other things that we have around the homestead, so that we can provide some of that to more of the homesteading community. Another big thing along with that we've decided is that sometimes it's okay to do things just for us. So in the past, we've always looked at everything as kind of, like Sarah touched on earlier, a business opportunity. If we're going to raise, 20 chickens for eggs, then we might as well raise 40 chickens so that we have extra eggs that we can sell. Having that mentality isn't necessarily bad, but having that mentality about everything that you do just becomes too much, you guys. It just becomes too much. So we can handle having a garden and having the greenhouse and growing enough in those areas for us. But when it came to growing enough for us and our extended family and to sell at the farmer's market and all of that, it just became too much. So we really had to sit down and say, it's okay for some things around the homestead to be aligning with the number one goal, which is to raise food for our family. And of course, we'll always try to make the best possible use of the extras that we have, either by giving it to people at our church or giving it to extended family or whatever that may be. But we don't need to feel guilty if all we can do for that year is grow enough for us.
And the last thing that we've identified just recently that will kind of help prevent burnout for us is that it's okay for us to ask for help. Now we know, now you all know, that we don't have employees here, that the work that's done on the homestead is done by Kevin and I. Both of our daughters are busy with school and work in their lives, and they don't help around the homestead, and that's okay for us. But there are some times where we need help, and we are allowing ourselves to ask for help. And this particular season of our lives, we need help at the farmer's market. And we've asked both of our daughters and our future son-in-law to help us on Saturdays so that we can not only serve our customers well, but we also have the opportunity and a little extra time to talk with a lot of you who come out to meet us and share your story and talk with us. So you guys, we know that that homestead burnout is real, and we've experienced it, and we don't want to be too proud to share the fact that we have experienced that, but because of the teachers within ourselves, we just really felt like, number one, we needed to bring it to your guys' attention and be like, we experienced that too, but also to kind of walk you guys through what helped us and maybe can help you guys either get through a period of homestead burnout or prevent a period of homestead burnout.
So you guys, we hope that this video was helpful to you. Let us know what you're doing around your homestead to either, make your life a little bit easier. If you're going through burnout right now, we hope that this video was helpful to you. Maybe it will at least get you talking a little bit to set up some of your own priorities and just really start thinking about what is important for your homestead and your family. Hey, if you're enjoying our videos, we hope that you'll hit that subscribe button before you leave. Don't forget that if this was helpful, to please give this video a thumbs up. And as always, the absolute best way that you can help us is just by sharing our videos on your social media. Until next time, thank you so much for stopping by our homestead. Take care, and God bless.
God bless.